As time goes on, our journeys bring us to many different racing venues. We collect footage from these adventures. Now we take the time to break down our recent adventures and rate the venues we have visited for your own education and entertainment. Night 3 of the 410 USAC series.
Ooh. I wonder who's going flying today.
Right, well, I mean, everybody's going to be going after Justin Grant there. Just because he got that win last night and went 3-0 last weekend. Creeper here, and today we are going to be reviewing mine and Jester's experiences at Bubba Raceway Park in Ocala, Florida. Bubba Raceway Park is a 3/8 mile clay track open in 1952. It actually served 10 years as an asphalt track after running as a clay track for 45 years and then was converted back in about 2008 to a clay track. We actually managed to catch the tail ends of both the USAC midgets and the USAC 410 wingless sprint cars. Alright, jumping straight into the review. We're going to be going over a few different categories here, beginning with the track facility rating. Alright, covering the track facility rating, for the most part the clay surface is very smooth. I didn't see any holes or bumps other than, of course, you know, your typical cushion on the high side, and there was a little bit of a curb at the bottom of the track, which seemed a little dangerous for, you know, a 410 wingless sprint car, but, you know, for anything that isn't like an open wheel modified or open wheel sprint car, you know, that really isn't going to cause many problems. There were a couple of rocks in the track that we noticed. We actually got hit with a couple, but because this is a spectator sport, I think that this actually helps the rating. Throughout the night, the track only really dried out. It did take on a little bit of rubber, but nothing wild. There was a rain delay the first time that we went, and there was, you know, about 20-30 minutes of hot laps and just letting the track re-prep halfway through the night. But for the most part, afterwards, the track didn't really deteriorate. It just kind of smoothed out and slicked off like, you know, a normal dirt clay track should. And throughout the night, we also noticed that the lighting system is actually very, very good. It appears that there are no real dark spots on the track, which, from a driver's side, looks awesome. There's also multiple racing lines that we saw. The track itself is almost like an egg shape, where turns 3 and 4 are a lot tighter radius than 1 and 2. So 1 and 2 are higher speed turns, so you can actually hit that low or high and gain your momentum. And then you can also swoop down and hit a very tight line from high to low in the 3 and 4, or you can, you know, continue that high line and keep that momentum up. All these factors taken into consideration, I gave this track a 7.5 out of 10. Alright, onward to the spectator facility rating. This category here covers things that you would experience as a spectator without a pit pass. Things like the amount of concession stands, the available amenities, bathrooms, etc. So one thing I did notice about this track, there's a lot of spectator viewing areas across the front stretch, and of course coming out of turn 4 and going into turn 1. All these viewing areas, you can pretty much see 90% of the track, if not all of it, which really does help this rating a lot. There were 2 permanent concession stands that we took note of while we were there. We did go in on an event, so we never really got to get the whole, you know, Friday Night Lights experience like you would get from, you know, your normal local racing. However, we did notice that there were the 2 concession stands, including a bar with a live feed of the track. We don't know how that operates, you know, during a normal race, but at a sanctioned event that is covered by, you know, actual media outlets, you get a nice live feed while you're sitting at the bar. In the spectator area, the bathrooms are actually very large and fairly new. Back when the track got the new lighting system and was remade into a dirt track, the bathrooms were actually redone, and they're actually fairly nice. They're nice, spacious, and there's quite a few private stalls in, you know, the men's room, which is actually, you know, a nice amenity to have at a dirt track like this. There's actually a good amount of merchant space outside of the concession area too, which also helps this rating. And another thing at this track that we did take note of is that the PA system is nice, loud, and audible, so you can actually hear the announcers at this track, and the actual scoreboard works. With all these factors taken into consideration, I have given the spectator facility rating a 7. Next up is the pit facility rating. This is actually based on the size of the pits, the amount of parking spots, the size of the parking spots, and the amenities found in the pits. So upon first thoughts, me and Jester thought that these were actually a lot smaller than they originally were, but these pits actually go pretty far back onto the property, and there's actually quite a bit of room. There was about 60 different cars at the track whenever we went, and every single one of them had room, and there was still room for, you know, a good 20 more cars to be able to park there. So that actually helps us rating a lot. I did notice that the driveway through the pits is kind of rough where it was concrete. There's also a lot of potholes and areas where water's going to collect. I mean, whenever you've got an open wheel car, that's not too much of a problem, but if you were to run something like a late model through there that has a little bit lower profile, you're going to be scraping. The bathrooms in the pit area are a little bit smaller, but there are porta potties available for overflow. And there is actually Sunoco fuel available at the track. And one of the things that I did notice, there's only two available. There's 110 octane and 100 octane. But this is actually, for the most part, the cheapest 110 that I've seen in the region, last checked, right at $10.50 a gallon. I don't know how that's going to change over time, but for the most part, it's cheaper than the surrounding tracks with Sunoco available. These factors in consideration, I'm going to have to give the pit facility rating a 6.5, just due to the fact that it could be a little bit smoother. I mean, the driveway is kind of rough, and the amenities there, like the bathrooms and the concession stand, could be a little bit better. However, they're there. Next category, event operations. So this is actually going to be based on how the staff handle track prep, crash cleanup, and scheduling throughout the night, and how the event is ran from a staff point of view. Now, during the first race, like I mentioned, me and Reese did have to sit through a lot of hot laps and track prep just because there was rain showers coming in and out. And after the 410 sprint event, we actually did have to sit around for about 10-15 minutes waiting for an EMT to get there because they needed to switch out ambulances. Somebody needed to get transported, and they did not want to continue the event without another ambulance on hand, which I cannot take away points for this just because this is more of a driver safety thing. Now, with those delays in the back of our head, everything else went smoothly. Crash cleanup only took a few minutes, minus the fact that they had to push start most of the series that we saw, minus, you know, the modifieds. With that in consideration, though, everything went pretty smoothly, and with this, I'm going to have to give event operations an 8. This was actually very, very impressive to see, and with the factors given to them, they made it work perfectly. Next on the list is the concession rating. This actually takes into consideration the quality of the food and the amount of food available, along with all the drink options available, etc., etc. So we noticed that there were actually a lot of food options across all the stalls. We actually both had, I had cheeseburgers while I was there. Chester ended up having chili cheese fries and a couple other snacks. I ended up getting boiled peanuts, which I don't really see at racetracks often, and we noticed that there was a lot more options like pizza, nachos, like all the staples that you would expect to find at a racetrack or sporting event. They also did mention something about prime rib that we never got to try, but we'd like to go back and try that, maybe help us score a little bit more. There was also a bar on site, which we don't ever really see at racetracks, which I thought was a nice twist, and, you know, one of the things that seems to be a staple of the Bubba Army. With all these things in consideration, we're going to have to give the concession rating an 8.5. This is very, very good, and I think that it could be better if we had more options to try while we were there. Alright, so now we're going to get into the personal opinion side of things with the spectator score. This category is specifically for, as a spectator, how you would expect your experience going into the venue for the first time. This covers things like how easy it is to find seating, how easy it is to find the bathrooms, lines, you know, the things that spectators would see as part of the general public. Though this is not the most extravagant venue, for a first-time experience, there's a lot of action to be had throughout the night, and even with just a lineup of a couple of different classes, you will still get a good couple of hours of race time while watching the track. And it is very, very hard to find a bad place to sit in this track, and this track is extremely photogenic. Almost anything that you take here will look like gold. For this, we give the spectator score a 8.5. A very, very good track visit as a first racing experience or first local dirt track experience. Next is the driver score, another opinion-based one. This is basically how you would rate it as going into the venue first time as a driver. Now, the amenities here are kind of minimal for, you know, a whole weekend stay, but for the most part, like an overnight stay, 2-day event, Like, this is perfect if you've got the right rig. Now, this is really a great track for, you know, the overnight racer and anybody who likes to drive, like, on the edge. This is a smooth track. You won't expect, you know, any hard bumps or anything like that, and if anything does happen, usually staff is going to be very good about fixing the track and all the problems on the track. This track is very smooth and has multiple racing lines, so any race is going to have plenty of action and plenty of options. With these factors into consideration, we are going to be giving the driver score for this track an 8. This is a very great track to visit, and anybody who is actually racing and has the option to go to this track for an official event, do it. And for Bubba Raceway Park, we're going to give it one final score. Literally, the category is final score, and this is just an accumulation of overall opinion of what we think of the track. And for Bubba Raceway Park, we're going to give it a 7.5. On the spectator side of things, there's plenty of amenities. The track there is nice to watch. And though it does get dusty throughout the night, it's still worth staying the entire event. And even from the driver's point of view, always going to be a great track to visit whenever you can. This concludes our review of Bubba Raceway Park. We hope you found this video entertaining and educational. And if you did, make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos, because we're going to be doing a lot more track reviews in the future. Later.